Hello everybody, welcome back in today's video. First of all, I want to apologize because in the last lessons I forgot to mention an important thing about the main keys, so I'm gonna do it now. Anyway, today I'm gonna talk about three aspects of our camera, three things really important. I'm talking about the aperture, the lens release button and the sensor protection. So let's dive into it. Very well, as I said before, I want to apologize for forgetting an aspect really important about camera buttons. They are customizable. Yes, they are. So it means that if you don't like a specific function or setting, you can change it with another more convenient for you. And not only for the customizable buttons that usually every camera have, but I mean just every buttons. So for instance, if I want to change the behavior of this button, but now show me the focus mode, I can change it going into the menu up to this function, and that's it. Super simple and easy. Now I can use this new function pressing this button. Now we're gonna talk about aperture. What's the aperture? It's simple. It's the hole where you put your lenses and where the light passes through. Back to the aperture, there's the sensor, but you've already seen it in the first lesson. Consider it trivial talking about the aperture is a mistake, in my opinion. First of all, because it's the connection between the camera and the lens, so a sturdy aperture is vital. Cheaper cameras sometimes have a plastic aperture, at least the inner part. The outer part usually is metallic, whereas professional cameras have a metallic aperture and sturdy alloy connected to the aperture itself, but guarantee more security. Anyway, as I said, the aperture is the connection between cameras and lenses. Indeed, there are some metallic pins that allows lens and camera communications. So from the camera you can change the aperture lens, I mean the lens diaphragm, and in some case the focal length, like in many power zoom lenses that are able to change it using a slider in the lens. Through the camera itself. Every camera brand has its own aperture system. Sometimes it's shared among different kinds of cameras, like full frame and APS-C cameras. Speaking about nature photography, it doesn't change so much having a camera with a specific aperture. Basically, they are almost the same. So in my opinion, it doesn't matter the aperture dimension, because nowadays companies are able to build lenses for any kind of aperture. The last thing of the aperture to consider is the lens mark insertion. In every lens, there's the same mark in the lens bar, so you need to put the lens mark in front of the aperture mark for the right lens insertion. That's the only way you can insert a lens on a camera. It's a bit trivial, but for changing lens, there's a specific button just beside the aperture. So when you want to change lenses of your camera, you have to push that button. Counterclockwise rotate the lens and remove it. This process works with Sony, Olympus and Canon cameras, while Nikon cameras have an opposite system. So for removing the lens, you have to clockwise rotate it and finally remove it. The shutter is a precious component of a camera. It allows light coming from the lens to go directly to the sensor, where our picture will be treated and finally saved. The shutter is used every time we shoot a picture and it's connected to the shutter speed. So when we are using a shutter speed of 1 to 200 of a second, it means that the shutter speed works for that fraction of time. The shutter speed can go from 1 to 8,000 of a second up to 30 seconds. But there's a specific option to leave the shutter open even forever. It's the bulb function. To use the bulb function, please read the user manual to understand where it is this function in your camera. Okay, to use the bulb function, you have to set the camera in an manual mode. Then you can use the bulb function that allows the shutter to be opened when you're pressing the shutter button. So you'll allow light to go to the sensor for that amount of time. Once you left the shutter button, the camera will record the image. Some cameras has another function like that, called time, where you can set the amount of time which the shutter is open. Pay attention when you use this function. You're introduced to shake the camera due to the continuous pressing of the shutter button. To avoid this, you need to use a remote control. The bulb function is useful in nature photography for photographing the Milky Way, for example, or when you want to make artistic pictures in motion. Modern mirrorless cameras has often another type of shutter, I mean the electronic shutter. This kind of shutter is not a real shutter, like the mechanic or standard shutter, but the cameras can simulate the shutter simply turning on or turning off the sensor. In this way, there aren't real parts in motion, and the electronic shutter can live much more than the standard shutter. With an electronic shutter, you can shoot up to 1 to 32,000 of a second, where you can truly freeze a subject in motion, like a flying bird. As you know, camera sensors are the heart of every camera, so it's really important to protect the sensor from dust, dirt, fingers, and everything can damage the sensor. Even when we are changing lens, some dust can go on the sensor. Okay, I don't want to scare you, and usually there aren't such a big problems, but some camera brands are made a function to protect the sensor when the camera is turned off, or when you change a lens, but usually I do turning off the camera. Anyway, this function simply closes the shutter in front of the sensor, so nothing can go on the sensor surface. Useful, does it? Very well, guys. Also for today is all. Let me know what you think about this lens. If there are doubts, questions or requests, leave me a comment in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe the channel and allow the notification bells. Thanks for watching, see you next time in the next lesson. Bye bye.